Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Justin slouched on the worn leather couch, thumbing through his phone with a bored expression. Another uneventful Saturday stretched ahead, promising nothing but mindless scrolling and maybe a pizza delivery later. A sharp knock at the door jolted Justin from his reverie. He furrowed his brow, not expecting company. Pushing himself off the couch with a grunt, he padded over to the entrance.
"Who is it?"
Justin called out, his hand hovering over the doorknob. "It's me, man! Open up!" Caleb's familiar voice rang out, tinged with an unusual urgency. Justin swung the door open, revealing his best friend standing on the threshold. Caleb's face was flushed, his eyes darting nervously from side to side, as if checking for eavesdroppers in the empty hallway. "Dude, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost!" Justin quipped, stepping aside to let Caleb in. Caleb brushed past him, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "I need to talk to you about something. It's important." Justin closed the door, concern etching his features. He'd known Caleb since they were kids, building pillow forts and trading baseball cards. They'd weathered countless storms together, from first heartbreaks to family dramas. But he'd never seen his friend this agitated. "All right, spill it. What's got you so worked up?" Justin leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Caleb stopped his pacing, taking a deep breath. "You remember last week when you came over unexpectedly?" Justin nodded slowly, recalling the incident. He'd swung by Caleb's place to return a borrowed video game, letting himself in with the spare key as he often did. "Yeah, but you weren't home. What about it?" Caleb's eyes dropped to the floor, his voice barely above a whisper.
"I was home, Justin. I was in my room."
Confusion clouded Justin's face.
"What are you talking about? I checked your room. It was empty."
"No, it wasn't." Caleb's words came out in a rush.
"I was there, but I hid in the closet."
Justin's eyebrows shot up.
"You hid from me? Why the hell would you do that?"
Caleb's hands trembled as he ran them through his hair.
Because I wasn't myself. Or maybe I was more myself than I've ever been. I don't know anymore."
"Caleb, you're not making any sense. What's going on?" The words seemed to catch in Caleb's throat. He opened and closed his mouth several times, struggling to find the right way to explain. Finally, he blurted out,
"I was dressed as a woman, okay? Full makeup, wig, the works. That's why I hid."
The confession hung in the air between them, heavy and unexpected. Justin blinked rapidly, trying to process this new information.
"You...
what?" Caleb's shoulders slumped, as if a great weight had been lifted. "I like to cross-dress, Justin. It's something I've been doing in secret for years. When you came over, I panicked. I couldn't let you see me like that." Justin's mind raced. Pieces of a puzzle he didn't know existed, suddenly falling into place. Little oddities he'd noticed over the years. Caleb's extensive knowledge of makeup brands, his fascination with women's fashion shows, suddenly took on new meaning. "How long?" Justin asked, his voice softer now. Caleb sank onto the couch, looking utterly drained. "Since high school, I guess. It started with just trying on my mom's clothes when no one was home. But it grew into something more. It's not just about the clothes, Justin. When I'm dressed up, I feel... complete. Like I'm finally expressing a part of myself I've always had to hide." Justin moved to sit beside his friend, processing this revelation.
"Why didn't you tell me sooner?"
Caleb let out a bitter laugh.
"Are you kidding? I was terrified. We live in a small town, man. People talk. And my family? God, can you imagine what my dad would say? He'd disown me on the spot."
Justin nodded,
understanding the weight of Caleb's fears. Their town wasn't exactly known for its progressive views, and Caleb's father was about as traditional as they came. "So, what made you decide to tell me now?" Justin asked. Caleb met his friend's gaze, a mix of fear and hope in his eyes. "Because I can't keep living like this, Justin. Hiding who I am, sneaking around. It's eating me up inside. I needed to tell someone, and, well, you're my best friend. If anyone was going to understand, I hoped it would be you." Justin reached out, placing a reassuring hand on Caleb's shoulder. "Hey, you know me. I've got your back, no matter what. This doesn't change anything between us." Relief washed over Caleb's face, and for the first time since he'd arrived, a small smile tugged at his lips. "You have no idea how much that means to me." "So..." Justin leaned back, a mischievous glint in his eye. "When do I get to meet the other you? You got a name picked out and everything?" Caleb's smile widened, a hint of excitement creeping into his voice. "Her name is Carmen, and she's..."
"Well, she's pretty fabulous, if I do say so myself." Justin grinned, nudging his friend playfully. "Well then, I think it's high time Carmen made her debut. What do you say we have ourselves a little fashion show?" Caleb's eyes widened. "You mean right now? No time like the present, right? Unless you've got somewhere else to be on this thrilling Saturday night?" Caleb hesitated for a moment, then nodded, a newfound determination in his eyes. "All right, you're on, but I'll need to run home and grab my things. Give me an hour?" "Make it 2, Justin replied. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I'll order some wine, maybe some snacks. We'll make a whole night of it." As Caleb left to gather his alter ego's necessities, Justin found himself filled with a mixture of curiosity and excitement. This was uncharted territory for both of them, but he was determined to support his friend. Little did he know, this night would mark the beginning of a transformative journey for both of them. 2 hours later, Justin's apartment had undergone its own transformation. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers, and the harsh overhead lights had been replaced by the warm glow of candles. A bottle of red wine breathed on the coffee table, flanked by an assortment of cheeses and crackers. A tentative knock at the door sent a jolt of anticipation through Justin. He smoothed down his shirt, suddenly feeling underdressed for the occasion. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. The woman standing in the hallway was a vision in a sleek black dress that hugged curves Justin had never noticed on his best friend before. Long, honey-blonde hair cascaded over bare shoulders, and expertly applied makeup accentuated features that were at once familiar and startlingly new. "Carmen, I presume?" Justin said, a smile spreading across his face. Carmen's painted lips curved into a shy smile. "The one and only. May I come in?" Justin stepped aside with an exaggerated bow. "But of course, milady. Welcome to my humble abode." As Carmen stepped into the apartment, Justin couldn't help but marvel at the transformation. It wasn't just the clothes or the makeup. There was a confidence in Carmen's movements, a grace that Caleb had always seemed to lack.
"You look amazing,"
Justin said, meaning every word. "I mean, seriously, if I didn't know better, I'd never guess." Carmen's smile widened, a hint of Caleb's familiar mischief shining through. "That's kind of the point, isn't it? God, you have no idea how good it feels to finally share this with someone." Justin gestured to the couch. "Well, don't just stand there. Have a seat. Relax. Wine?" "Please," Carmen replied, settling onto the couch with a smoothness that spoke of practice. "You really went all out, didn't you?" Justin shrugged, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "Hey, it's not every day your best friend introduces you to his fabulous alter ego, Seemed like an occasion worth celebrating. He handed Carmen a glass, then raised his own in a toast. To new beginnings and true selves. They clinked glasses, Carmen taking a sip with a delicacy that was entirely new to Justin. As they settled into conversation, Justin found himself fascinated by the subtle differences between Caleb and Carmen. It wasn't just the appearance. Carmen's mannerisms, her way of speaking, even her laugh seemed to belong to a different person entirely. "So, tell me about her," Justin said, leaning forward. "Who is Carmen? Where did she come from?" Carmen's eyes lit up, as if she'd been waiting for this question her whole life. "Carmen is everything I've always wanted to be, but never felt I could. She's confident, sassy, unafraid to speak her mind or go after what she wants. When I'm her, I feel like I can take on the world." Justin nodded, understanding dawning. "And Caleb?" A shadow passed over Carmen's face. "Caleb is trapped, always trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. His parents, his co-workers, society in general. Carmen is freedom. But they're both you," Justin pointed out gently. Carmen nodded, a wistful smile playing on her lips. "Yes, I suppose they are. Two sides of the same coin, you might say. I'm still figuring out how to reconcile them." As the night wore on and the wine flowed freely, Justin found himself increasingly at ease with this new facet of his oldest friend. They laughed over shared memories, swapped fashion tips, Carmen's expertise far outstripping Justin's, and discussed everything from politics to pop culture. It was well past midnight when Carmen glanced at the ornate watch adorning her wrist. "Oh my, is that the time? I should probably get going. I have brunch with my mother tomorrow, and showing up in last night's dress might raise a few too many questions." Justin's face fell slightly. "Already? But we were having such a good time." Carmen stood, smoothing down her dress. "We were, weren't we? Thank you for this, Justin. For accepting me. For making me feel so comfortable. It means more than you know." Justin rose as well, pulling his friend into a warm embrace. "Anytime, Carmen. Or Caleb. Whoever you want to be, whenever you want to be them. I'm here for you." As they broke apart, a mischievous glint appeared in Carmen's eye. "You know, it occurs to me that poor Caleb has been cooped up in that apartment for far too long. What do you say we take Carmen out on the town next weekend?" Justin's eyebrows shot up. "You mean, like, in public? Are you sure you're ready for that?" Carmen nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness in her voice. "I think so. I mean, I'll never be truly ready unless I take that first step, right? And having you there would make me feel a lot more comfortable." A slow grin spread across Justin's face. "Well then, Miss Carmen, it looks like we've got ourselves a date. Next Saturday, we paint the town red." As Carmen gathered her things and prepared to leave, Justin couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. This night had opened up a whole new world, not just for Caleb Carmen, but for him as well. He had a feeling their lives were about to get a lot more interesting. The following week passed in a blur of anticipation and planning. Justin and Caleb spent hours on the phone each night, plotting their upcoming adventure. They debated potential venues, discussed outfit options, and strategized how to handle various scenarios that might arise. When Saturday finally rolled around, Justin found himself pacing his apartment, a bundle of nervous energy. He'd settled on a smart, casual outfit. Dark jeans, a crisp button-down shirt, and a blazer. Casual enough not to overshadow Carmen, but nice enough to compliment her. The knock on the door came precisely at 8. Justin took a deep breath, steeling himself before opening it. Carmen stood in the hallway, a vision in a deep red cocktail dress that hugged every curve. Her blonde hair was styled in loose waves, and her makeup was flawless. Smoky eyes, red lips, the works. She looked like she'd just stepped off a runway. "Wow," Justin breathed, momentarily at a loss for words. "You look incredible." Carmen beamed, giving a little twirl. "You like? I may have gone a bit overboard, but it's not every day a girl makes her public debut." Justin chuckled, offering his arm. "Well then, shall we? Our chariot awaits." They made their way down to the street, where a taxi was waiting. As they settled into the back seat, Justin could feel Carmen's nervous energy radiating off her in waves. "Hey," he said softly, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "You okay?" Carmen nodded, though her smile was tighter than before. "Just nervous. What if someone recognizes me? What if I make a fool of myself?"
"Then we'll deal with it," Justin said firmly. "Remember, you're Carmen tonight. Confident, sassy Carmen who doesn't give a damn what anyone thinks. And if anyone gives you trouble, they'll have to deal with me."
Carmen's smile softened, some of the tension leaving her shoulders.
"What would I do without you?"
The taxi pulled up outside a trendy bar in the heart of downtown. Music pulsed from within, and a line of people waited to get in. Carmen's grip on Justin's arm tightened as they approached.
"Ready?"
Justin asked. Carmen took a deep breath, then nodded. "As I'll ever be." They bypassed the line, Justin having called in a favor with a friend who worked as a bouncer. As they stepped into the dimly lit interior, the bass thrumming through their bodies, Justin felt Carmen stiffen beside him. "It's okay," he murmured in her ear. "You've got this. Remember, you're Carmen. You own this place." As if a switch had been flipped, Carmen's posture changed. Her chin lifted, her walk became more of a strut, and a confident smile spread across her face. Justin watched in amazement as his friend transformed before his eyes. They made their way to the bar, Carmen turning heads as she passed. Justin couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and maybe a touch of protectiveness. "What's your poison?" he asked as they reached the bar. Carmen considered for a moment, then smiled. "Cosmo, when in Rome, right?" Justin chuckled, signaling the bartender. "1 Cosmo and 1 whiskey neat, please." As they waited for their drinks, a tall, dark-haired man sidled up next to Carmen. "Hey there, beautiful. Can I buy you a drink?" Justin tensed, ready to intervene, but Carmen handled it with aplomb. "That's sweet of you, honey," she purred, her voice pitched slightly higher than usual. "But I'm here with my friend. Maybe next time?" The man nodded, looking a bit disappointed but not pushy. As he walked away, Carmen let out a small giggle. "Oh my God, did that just happen? A guy actually hit on me!" Justin couldn't help but laugh. "Well, get used to it. You're turning quite a few heads in here." Their drinks arrived, and they found a small table in a corner where they could observe the crowd. As the night wore on, Carmen seemed to blossom. She laughed, she danced, she flirted harmlessly with a few more admirers. Justin watched it all with a mixture of joy and something else he couldn't quite name. It was well past midnight when Carmen leaned in close, her breath tickling Justin's ear. "Thank you for this. I've never felt so free." Justin smiled, a warm feeling spreading through his chest.
"Anytime, Carmen, anytime."
As they stumbled out of the bar in the early hours of the morning, giddy with the success of their night out, neither of them noticed the familiar face watching from across the street, a face that would soon turn their world upside down. The following weeks saw a dramatic shift in Justin and Caleb's friendship. Their usual hangouts, watching sports at the local bar, playing video games, or hitting the gym, were increasingly replaced by girls' nights out with Carmen. Justin found himself looking forward to these outings more than he cared to admit. There was something exhilarating about watching his oldest friend transform into this vibrant, confident woman. Carmen had a zest for life that was infectious, and Justin often found himself swept up in her enthusiasm. One balmy Friday evening, they decided to try a new upscale cocktail bar that had just opened downtown. Carmen arrived at Justin's apartment in a shimmering gold dress that caught the light with every movement. "You're going to upstage every woman in that place," Justin said, with a low whistle as he opened the door. Carmen grinned, striking a pose. "That's the plan, darling. Shall we?" The bar was packed when they arrived, the air heavy with the scent of expensive perfume and the sound of tinkling laughter. As they made their way to the bar, Justin couldn't help but notice the appreciative glances Carmen was drawing. "The usual?" he asked as they reached the bar. Carmen shook her head, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Not tonight. I'm feeling adventurous." "Surprise me?" Justin raised an eyebrow but nodded, turning to the bartender. "2 of your most outrageous cocktails, please. The more umbrellas, the better." As they waited for their drinks, Carmen leaned in close, her voice low. "Don't look now, but there's a rather handsome gentleman at your 4 o'clock who hasn't taken his eyes off you since we walked in." Justin's head jerked around involuntarily, his eyes landing on a tall, well-dressed man with salt and pepper hair. The stranger raised his glass in a subtle toast when their eyes met. "Oh," Justin said, feeling a blush creep up his neck. I don't think he's looking at me, Carmen." Carmen's laughter was low and throaty. "Trust me, honey. That man is definitely interested in you. Why don't you go say hello?" Justin shook his head, suddenly feeling out of his depth. "I can't just leave you here alone." "Please," Carmen scoffed, giving him a gentle push. "I'm a big girl. I can handle myself for 5 minutes while you go flirt." "Go on. Live a little." Before Justin could protest further, their drinks arrived, towering concoctions of various colors, festooned with fruit and tiny umbrellas. Carmen grabbed hers and gave Justin another push. "Go. I'll be right here when you get back." Feeling slightly dazed, Justin found himself walking towards the handsome stranger. As he approached, the man's face broke into a warm smile. "I was hoping you'd come over," he said, his voice deep and rich.
"I'm Daniel. Justin,"
he replied, surprised at how steady his voice sounded.
"Nice to meet you."
As they fell into easy conversation, Justin found himself stealing glances back at the bar where he'd left Carmen. She caught his eye once, giving him an encouraging wink, before turning her attention to a group of women who had struck up a conversation with her. It was nearly an hour later when Justin finally made his way back to Carmen, feeling slightly guilty for leaving her for so long.
"I'm so sorry,"
he began, but Carmen waved him off. "Don't you dare apologize," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Did you get his number?" Justin nodded, unable to keep the grin off his face. "Yeah, I did. We're going to grab coffee next week." Carmen clapped her hands in delight. "I knew it! Oh, I'm so happy for you, Justin. It's about time you put yourself out there." As they left the bar later that night, arm in arm and slightly tipsy, Justin couldn't help but marvel at how much his life had changed in such a short time. He'd always considered himself open-minded, but helping Caleb explore this side of himself, herself, had opened up a whole new world of possibilities. "You know," he said as they waited for a taxi, "I never thought I'd say this,
but I'm really glad you decided to tell me about Carmen. These past few weeks have been eye-opening." Carmen squeezed his arm affectionately. "I'm glad too. I don't know what I'd do without you, Justin. You've been my rock through all of this."
As they climbed into the taxi, Justin couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between them. The lines between Caleb and Carmen, between friendship and something more, were starting to blur, and for the life of him, he couldn't decide if that was a good thing or not. The following week brought new challenges and revelations. Caleb, emboldened by the success of their nights out, began to consider the possibility of coming out publicly. The idea both thrilled and terrified him. "I just don't know how to even begin," Caleb confessed over coffee one afternoon. They were at their usual spot, a cozy little cafe tucked away on a side street. "Do I tell my family first? My coworkers? And what exactly do I tell them? That I like to dress as a woman sometimes? That I might be transgender? I'm not even sure myself." Justin stirred his latte thoughtfully. "I think the first step is figuring out what feels right for you. Have you considered talking to a therapist, someone who specializes in gender identity issues?" Caleb nodded slowly. "I've thought about it. But that feels so official, you know? Like once I start down that road, there's no turning back." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Justin suggested gently. "You've seemed so much happier these past few weeks, Caleb. More comfortable in your own skin. Don't you want to explore that further?" A small smile tugged at Caleb's lips. "You're right. I have been happier. It's just my family, Justin. You know how they are. My dad would lose it if he found out." Justin reached across the table, giving Caleb's hand a reassuring squeeze. "Hey, one step at a time, okay? You don't have to tell everyone all at once. Start with the people you trust most. Build a support system. And remember, no matter what happens, you've always got me in your corner." Caleb's smile widened, gratitude shining in his eyes. "What would I do without you?" As they left the cafe, neither of them noticed the familiar car parked across the street or the shocked face of Caleb's father watching them through the window. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Caleb, taking Justin's advice to heart, made an appointment with a gender identity therapist. He also started researching support groups in their area, looking for a safe space to explore his feelings further. Meanwhile, Justin found himself grappling with his own unexpected emotions. His coffee date with Daniel had gone well, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Every time he thought about pursuing things further with Daniel, his mind would inexplicably drift to Carmen. Her laugh, her smile, the way she lit up a room. It was Friday evening when everything came to a head. Justin and Carmen had plans to try out a new dance club that had just opened downtown. As Justin was getting ready, his phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. "Emergency. Come over ASAP." Worry gnawed at Justin's stomach as he rushed over to Caleb's apartment. He found his friend pacing the living room, looking pale and shaken. "What happened?" Justin asked, closing the door behind him. Caleb stopped pacing, his eyes wild with panic. "My dad knows. He knows everything!" Justin felt his heart drop. "What? How?" "He saw us," Caleb said, his voice trembling. "At the cafe the other day. He was driving by and saw us holding hands. He thought we were together." Justin's mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. "Okay, so he thinks we're dating. That's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world, right?" Caleb shook his head, collapsing onto the couch. "You don't understand. He confronted me about it. Said he'd suspected for a while that I might be different. That's when I panicked and told him everything. About Carmen, about the cross-dressing, all of it." Justin sat down next to his friend, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. How did he take it? A bitter laugh escaped Caleb's lips. "How do you think? He freaked out, called me a freak, said no son of his would parade around in women's clothing. He said I'm not welcome in their house anymore.
Not unless I get help and sort myself out. Anger flared in Justin's chest. He can't do that! You're his son, for Christ's sake! Can't he? Caleb's voice was small, defeated. You know how he is, Justin. Once he makes up his mind about something, that's it. And now he's going to tell everyone. My mom, my sisters, probably the whole damn town. Justin pulled Caleb into a tight embrace, feeling his friend's body shake with silent sobs. Hey, listen to me. We'll figure this out, okay? You're not alone in this. Whatever happens, I've got your back. As he held his crying friend, Justin's mind raced with possibilities. They could leave town, start fresh somewhere more accepting, or they could stay and fight, show Caleb's family and the whole town that there was nothing wrong with being true to yourself. But for now, all that mattered was being there for Caleb. As the night wore on and Caleb's tears finally subsided, Justin made a silent vow. No matter what it took, he would help his friend, both Caleb and Carmen, find happiness and acceptance. The road ahead would be tough, but they would face it together. As the first rays of dawn crept through the blinds, Justin realized they had talked through the entire night. Caleb had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep on the couch, his face still bearing the traces of tears. Justin stood up quietly, stretching his stiff muscles. He made his way to the kitchen, brewing a pot of strong coffee. As the rich aroma filled the apartment, he leaned against the counter, his mind whirling with everything that had transpired. The sound of movement from the living room caught his attention. He poured 2 mugs of coffee and headed back, finding Caleb sitting up, looking disoriented and disheveled. Hey, Justin said softly, offering one of the mugs. How are you feeling? Caleb accepted the coffee with a weak smile. Like I've been hit by a truck. God, did all of that really happen? Justin nodded, settling into an armchair across from his friend. Yeah, it did. But we're going to get through this, okay? One step at a time. Caleb took a long sip of coffee, his eyes distant. I keep thinking maybe I should just stop. Pack away all of Carmen's things. Pretend this was just some phase. Maybe then my dad would... No. Justin cut him off firmly. Don't even think about that. Caleb, Carmen is a part of you. A beautiful, vibrant part that deserves to be seen and celebrated. You can't stuff her in a box just because some people don't understand. Caleb's eyes welled up with fresh tears. But what am I supposed to do? My family, my job, this whole town. Once word gets out, I'll be a pariah. Justin leaned forward, his voice intense. Then we leave. We pack up. Move to a bigger city where people are more open-minded. Start fresh somewhere you can be yourself without fear. We? Caleb echoed, surprise coloring his tone. Of course we. Justin replied, without hesitation. You didn't think I'd let you face this alone, did you? Where you go, I go. We're in this together. A complex mix of emotions played across Caleb's face. Gratitude, affection, and something else Justin couldn't quite identify. Justin, I can't ask you to uproot your whole life for me. Justin shrugged, a small smile tugging at his lips. You're not asking. I'm offering. Besides, what's keeping me here? A dead-end job? A town where nothing ever changes? Maybe this is the push we both need to start living our best lives. Caleb was quiet for a long moment, seemingly wrestling with internal thoughts. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. There's something else I need to tell you, something I've been afraid to admit, even to myself. Justin felt his heart rate pick up, sensing the weight of whatever Caleb was about to say. You can tell me anything. You know that. Caleb took a deep breath, his eyes meeting Justin's with an intensity that made his breath catch.
I think I'm in love with you, Justin. Not just as Caleb, but as Carmen, too. I don't know when it happened or how, but somewhere along the way, you became more than just my best friend. The confession hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Justin felt as if the world had tilted on its axis. Everything he thought he knew suddenly cast in a new light. Caleb, he began, but found himself at a loss for words. How could he explain the jumble of emotions coursing through him? The affection he felt for Caleb, the excitement Carmen stirred in him, the fear of potentially ruining the most important relationship in his life. Caleb's face fell, interpreting Justin's silence as rejection. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Can we just forget? Before he could finish, Justin closed the distance between them, pressing his lips to Caleb's in a kiss that was equal parts tender and desperate. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. I don't know what this means, Justin said softly, his forehead resting against Caleb's. I don't know if I'm gay or bi or what. All I know is that I care about you, all of you, more than anyone else in this world, and I want to figure this out together. A tentative smile spread across Caleb's face, hope blooming in his eyes. Together, he repeated, the word sounding like a promise.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!